This is Rob Curto here at Liberty Bellows in Philadelphia. Welcome back to our video series on Brazilian music and groove creation for the accordion. In our last two lessons, we learned to play a classic forró tune, Roseira do Norte, by the old master Pedro Sertanejo. Our objective for today's lesson is to learn some specific techniques for improvising in the forró style, and then apply them to the D section of Roseira do Norte. The D section of Roseira do Norte looks and sounds like this. Notice that the harmony alternates between one measure of D7 and one measure of G. If we loop this harmony in our accompaniment without the melody, it looks and sounds like this. We're using the forró pattern that we've learned in earlier videos, starting first on D7 and then going to G major. So let's learn three different techniques for improvisation in the forró style. For our first technique, let's utilize arpeggios of the G and D chords. First, we can play a D major triad in the root position using our first, second, and fourth fingers on the D, F sharp, and A. We'll then play a series of 16th notes in the following pattern for one measure. 1 E and 2 E and 1 E and 2 E and. Then we'll switch our fingering to the G chord in the second inversion, with our first finger staying on the D and our second and fourth fingers moving up to the G and B. Then play the same pattern using these new notes. Putting them both together and looping it will sound like this. Forró is dance music, and repetitive patterns using arpeggios create rhythmic momentum. Notice that our pattern mimics the basic rhythmic cell of forró or baião. 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a. Here's the same pattern on the pandeiro, one of Brazil's quintessential percussion instruments. So now if we keep the same basic pattern in the right hand, but vary our voicings and inversions, we can create more interest, and it sounds like this. Another basic technique involves playing a pattern that imitates the steady stream of 16th notes played by the triangle, another one of the most important instruments in forró. Let's use the same root position voicing as before on the D. However, this time we'll break it up into two voices, with our thumb on the D as one voice, and then our other fingers on the F sharp and A as a second voice. Then we'll play the following 16th note pattern. 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a. Now if we use the same voicing we used for the G major second inversion before, we can play the same pattern on the G. Putting them together as a loop, it looks and sounds like this. This pattern generally sounds better in a higher octave. Now if we play it with both hands and vary the voicings as we did before to create interest, it sounds like this. Finally, let's learn a more linear melodic phrase that's idiomatic of the Forró genre. We'll begin with our thumb on a D, playing 2 16th notes. Then using our second, third, fourth, and fifth fingers, we'll ascend an arpeggio all the way up to an E, which is the ninth of the scale. It looks and sounds like this. Then we'll come straight down the scale with our fourth and third fingers on the D and C, switching to our first finger when we get to the B natural. This then allows us to ascend chromatically to a D, come down an E minor arpeggio using our E flat as a passing tone, and arriving back at our original D. The whole thing sounds like this. 1 E and a 2 E and a 1. Here it is again, more slowly. 1 E and a 2 E and a. Then we'll repeat the same exact phrase, but ending when we get to the B natural. That's our first ending. And then if we repeat the whole thing one more time, ending on the G, it sounds as follows. This combination of arpeggios and connecting chromatic passages, combined with rhythmic repetition, is very common in Brazilian music, but it can also be applied to improvisation in many other styles. Now, if we combine all of the techniques that we learned today into one single improvisation, we can get quite creative. Let's hear what that might sound like.